Hello, everyone. We are back with episode 26 with You Can Slay That Again. I'm here with the beautiful Ash Lane. She is an evidence-based fat loss coach, but more than that, I'm sure, my love. How are you, gorgeous?
I am so good. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I am. I am a little bit more than a fat loss coach, but we'll probably get into that a little bit later.
100%, babe. And I think the most important part of this is, I started in the fitness industry and, I've just been watching you excel on your social media, your business growth. I read your emails, we've been chatting. And I really just see this, honestly, powerhouse with everything that you're doing from the fitness space. And you're the type of person I look at and go, this is what fitness is. This is what it should be. I don't know if you've probably been around in the industry for a while now, but have you seen like a shift and change within the industry?
Yeah, it's quite wild actually. So I've been a coach for the last 10 years, which kind of blows my mind a little bit to think, oh my goodness, I have been in the industry for that long now. But yes, it definitely has. And I think more so in probably the last I would say 3 to 5 years, I noticed the shift start to happen, that it's not about anymore about just eating less and training more and more. Because ultimately, while yes, it does technically work, it doesn't, because you need to keep that behavior up to maintain training more and eating less to maintain those results. So it is shifting, and it's actually a really awesome thing to watch. From my side of things as well, people aren't wanting quick fixes anymore. Whilst it's still really appealing, and you're like, yes, I just need to lose weight now. I think people are starting to really realize that, hey, that's actually not a long-term solution. You have to do a lot of inner work, and yeah, we're looking for something long-term that we can sustain, that we can really incorporate our whole lives.
And from a marketing perspective, because yes, as the quick fix is appealing, what has been the message you have been really putting out there for you to grow your business?
Obviously, fat loss is still really quite appealing to people, and it does captivate them. It captures their attention of, hey, this is my goal, fat loss. But from a marketing perspective, we are heavily involved in really trying to promote what our clients get from a lifestyle perspective at the end. So how they're feeling, like the benefits that they're going to feel once they've finished. And from a marketing perspective, that works so well. Is like, we always say Cheryl in our business. So where we're using it as an example of somebody. So Cheryl is currently feeling XYZ. She wants to achieve, ABC. And then now she feels XYZ and has achieved ABC, and just really honing in on how that person is going to feel, because I think a lot of people can be super relatable, or can relate to that, in that, oh my goodness, all I want to do is feel confident. All I want to do is have the ability to eat the same meals as my family, have that food flexibility, go out for a drink on the weekend if that's something that brings me joy, but all while achieving these results, losing 5, 10, 15, 20 kilos, whatever it is, but also at the end, actually keeping that off. Because so many people can go, I started an 8-week shred. I was eating 1,200 calories. I was training twice a day, 6 times a week. And I lost 10 kilos, but then I gained it back. And what we're trying to do is stop that but then and create that but now. I lost 10 kilos. And now I, enjoy my life with my family. I've kept it off, all of these kinds of things. So trying to hone in on that.
Wow, I love that, because I even think about my journey when I began. I remember it was a 30-day challenge, and I thought that was all that I could do to lose the weight. It was almonds and, cutting like 100 grams of like chicken, broccoli. And I honestly look back on that now and I think, yes, from a marketing perspective, it was good, because people would, lose the weight in 30 days. Then they would put it back on. Then they would think, okay, I need to go back and do the 30-day thing again. And then it gets, repetitive, and it becomes this vicious cycle. And it was honestly a detriment to my physique. So it's really, really a breath of fresh air that you're educating these beautiful women and men, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Totally. I think so like the people that I particularly work with are women that have been on this yo-yo diet for their entire life. But what we have started to really incorporate, particularly with Brad, my husband, being inside the business, is having a train with Brad model where we can actually bring couples together. So this is kind of like where I say I'm so much more than just training, nutrition, fat loss, is that we are bringing couples together at the same time as well. Relationships are flourishing that may have had a little bit of a dry spell or a bit of a rough patch. Couples are really flourishing because they're able to do something together. It's connecting them. They're supporting one another, uplifting one another, rather than this. And this is what I find with a lot of women starting a health and fitness journey, is they're on one path, hubby is on another path, and they're like, oh God, what challenge have you started this time, love? Like, not another one. What kind of crap am I going to have to eat now? Like, rather than that, we're really helping them still live their life, bring them together, and actually do something together. I mean, as if you've been in a long-term relationship, it can get a little bit monotonous at times. It can get really repetitive. It can be kind of like, what do they say, passing ships at the night. Like sometimes it can if you've got kids, but having something for you guys as well can be really, really great for your relationship.
I love that, babe, because I think, as you said, when you've got goals to do together, it becomes one more fulfilling. The results become more something you can celebrate together, and it's not just the one person, and it's not then the hubby eating whatever he wants. It's bringing it together, and I love that you're helping people's relationship as well throughout this journey, and it's probably a testament as well to you and Brad, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, Brad and I have, we've been together for, my goodness, nearly 18 years. And so like I was, a baby, basically. Brad's 5 years older than me, and we have definitely changed. Like, we're not the people that we were when we first met. We're very, very different people, but for a really good reason. But yeah, like I think particularly through our podcast, and we do the podcast together, people always are like, you know what, you guys have a great relationship. We do, but we've also worked on that. Like, it's not magic. It hasn't just happened. But yeah, when I started my health and fitness journey, one thing that I think that I noticed for me is I became really obsessive over my health and fitness journey, and didn't eat meals with my family. And we have a 9-year-old son, so the boys were eating something different to me, and I always had to be at training, morning, evening, and it just took over so much of I guess our life. I was not as present because it was becoming so much and so time consuming. But I think I had to go through that to come out the other side, to realize, hey, this isn't what we really want. Like, doing all that kind of stuff to achieve, like, what, a couple of kilos less on the scale, or like 5 kilos, 10, whatever it is, to weigh less. Really, you're doing all of this affecting your whole life just to weigh less. So how can we not have that happen? And yeah, I went through that. I saw the transformation that it had in our lives by coming out the other side and achieving my goals, but with my family around and no one feeling out of place. And I think people have been able to see that, and they're like, I want that too. And you absolutely can. But it doesn't, like I said, it's not magic. It doesn't happen overnight. It requires conscious effort. And sometimes people don't like applying conscious effort. Sometimes like, oh, it's too much, I don't want to think about that. Well, it's one of those things that you do actually have to think about, and you do actually have to work on, but you have to want it as well.
Yeah, that's such a big thing, wanting it and then doing the work, I think. And I love the dynamic between you and Brad, because I haven't spoken to you, but I've only been in a relationship as of late. It's coming into 6 months.
Yay, that's awesome.
I'm beyond in love and grateful for the relationship. And looking at you and Brad from a business perspective, as well as the relationship you guys have. Jordan and I, we're currently working on his business. So there's so many things I'm learning in the process because I take things to heart. I'm Brazilian and German, you know, I'm helping him, and then he'll give me things to work on, and I naturally go, but this is what I'm trying to help you with, right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear from your opinion and advice, babe. Like, how have you made, from a business perspective and your relationship with Brad, working together?
Absolutely. I think for us, it helped that when we got together 18 years ago, we actually met working. So we were both in the real estate industry. I was a receptionist, Brad was a salesperson, and we met there. And our relationship grew over the years. I ended up doing something else. I left, and actually, I had this thing. I'm like, I want to be an accountant, which is so funny because I hate that kind of stuff now. I'm like, I don't want to do the numbers. I don't want to do the spreadsheets. So that was me. I was like kind of left. Then we decided to make a move to Queensland. We were living in Sydney at the time, and we moved to Queensland, and then we worked for my, hang on, give me 1 second. I'm just going to turn these notifications off. We worked for my dad's business. So we came back to working together, and we hadn't known anything different. And I think for us, that really, really helped us, is that we had started working together. We knew no different. However, it can have its challenging times, you know, spending a lot of time together, particularly if you are somebody that likes your alone time or likes to spend time apart. I'm not one of those people. I don't actually really care. Like Brad, though, he does need his own time, and it's about him scheduling time for himself. So in a relationship, he will actually then go and, you know, okay, I'm going to go and do this for myself, go to the gym by myself, maybe one day or something like that. So that's that part. But in the business, I think communication is a massive piece of the puzzle. You know, like it's easy for some people just to bottle up, I guess, emotions, or just expect that other person is thinking what you're thinking. Communication is a massive one. Compromise is a massive one. Sometimes it is about compromising, you know, like I might have one idea, he might have another idea, and I may not like it, or he may not like my idea. Okay, well, how can we make this work so that we're appealing to both of what we want? Because it does happen. We don't always agree on everything, particularly in business. Brad may want us to go one direction, I may go no. And it's always funny because he's like, I need your vibe to be vibing, because if you're not vibing, he's like, then this is not going to work. And I'm like, exactly. I need to have, it comes back to belief though. And I think you would know that, right? Belief in something, unless you believe, nothing's going to work, right? So that's one part, is, you know, obviously having belief, but compromise, that's Brad's thing. He calls it the 3 C's. I'm not going to tell you what the third C is, but you guys will be able to. You'll be able to work it out. Compromise, communication, and don't be and we'll leave it at that. So that's how we work together.
I fucking love that. God, I feel like the dynamic between you two sounds like Jordan and I. I don't know if this relates, but I'm the dreamer, and I'm always like, yeah, we'll figure it out, you know, la, la, la. And he comes back to me and goes, logic, 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 tomorrow, no. But when we talk about the vibe, that's just like energy, right? And I feel the same too. If I'm off, he's off. If I'm bubbly and bouncy like a headless chook, he's the same. And it's always coming back to the reason of why we're doing this together.
Totally.
Now, your beautiful son, what's his name?
Casey. He's 9. He is an only child. We have no plans of having any other children.
That was my next.
We love having one child. He was planned. He was something that we had always planned to only have one child. Brad and I have got siblings, but we aren't a really close family, like with our siblings, if that makes sense. We are a close family, the 3 of us, but with our siblings, not so much. I don't know. It's funny when you look at the psychological piece of why we often do things. Sometimes it's because as a child, you went through something and you're like, I will never do that. Or sometimes you go through something as a child and you're heavily gravitated towards whatever that is. Both of us just didn't get along with our siblings. So we were like, no, we're only having one kid because we didn't really like having siblings growing up. So that's how I guess we got to this point with one child.
And does Casey want siblings?
He does. It's funny. He even still today is like, Mum, when are you going to bake me another, like, he actually wants a little sister. He's like, when are you going to bake me a little baby sister? And we always joke, and I'm like, Case, you'd have to share your stuff with her. Like, she'd be so annoying. You know, I was an only child until I was 10. And my parents divorced when I was really young, and my mum and my dad both, they remarried and decided to have kids when I was 10. So my dad had a daughter and my mum had a daughter, and I was 10. And at that point, it's really hard. Well, it was hard for me to gain a connection being a 10-year-old with a baby. For me, it was more of an annoyance. You know, like they're screaming, they're crying, you know, you're coming into adolescence and you just want your own space at that age. You know, you don't want a little baby around. So that's a big part of the reason why I don't, I guess, have a close connection with my siblings.
Yeah, wow. And it's amazing too, because from having a sibling at the age of 10, that's when you're discovering so much about yourself, you know, and it's kind of like the attention goes elsewhere. I mean, from my own experience, my brother and I only got close as I got older. I don't know if this is something that relates to you, but I always look back and go, I wonder what our connection would have been like had I made more of an effort, or, you know, if my parents didn't divorce, would we be closer? Would we not be closer? But one of the things I'm working through myself, and I'm sure you guys are a beautiful testament to this, is really focusing on the value of family life. And while my family's, you know, broken, I don't speak to my dad, like the family I have now is something I'm really focusing on, and Jordan too. Do you find with family life with you three, does Casey have an understanding of like the world you guys are building together, and does he have inspiration to do the same? Like, are you starting to see what he could be like when he's older? I always say to Jordan, I'm like, I want to make sure my daughter does gymnastics. That's it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you say that, and absolutely yes. You don't realize how much little people are sponges, and he sees us on, you know, Instagram stories and on Facebook Lives and doing podcasts and all of this kind of stuff. And he's got this inbuilt confidence that we had to learn. We had to learn to speak face to camera and not be scared of what other people think. And I guess you go through that the more that you grow through it, right? Like you do it, you get better at it. For him, it was like he sees mum and dad do it, so he's already got this confidence. And it was funny. We went to Palm Cove, actually, not too different to the time that you guys went up there. We were there at the same time, and Casey was face on camera with his little phone because he created a YouTube channel, walking through the airport, being, you know, like, yep, we've just arrived in Palm Cove. And Brad and I looking at him like, where did this kid get this confidence to speak on camera? Like, it'd be hard pressed finding me walk through an airport with my phone face on camera, and here is this like little, you know, this little boy totally okay with it. Like, it is crazy. And the other thing I guess we pick up on is just his vibe and his way that he will deal with situations. Being 9, you know, 9-year-olds can't control their emotions as well as an adult can. But he does have this kind of like my attitude of, it'll be fine, we'll work it out. Like, that's kind of how I live my life. I'm very much like you. I'm like, it'll work itself out. I try not to stress over things. I'm like, it'll be good. Brad's very much the opposite. He's like, needs to know what's happening and things must be booked. And I'm like, well, it'll be fine, you know. But Casey's very much showing signs of that, which is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, that's all you and Brad, babe. That's amazing. God,
I know.
you sound like my twin. I think we need to catch up in person and have a cocktail.
I totally agree. I totally agree. It's yeah, it's cool. But I guess I haven't always been like that either. Like I growing up, I didn't really have any, I guess, talents. Like I didn't have any signs of she's going to be an entrepreneur, or, you know, I didn't ever see myself like that. And it's crazy because my mum and my dad both have their own businesses, or have had. My dad still does. My mum actually sold hers. But even growing up, I just never thought, I didn't have a desire to have my own business. And it wasn't until, I guess, I got to a point where I was like, wow, am I going to be stuck here working in my dad's business, earning a salary? Like, even though I was a daughter of a successful business owner, there was no, like, our family is like no handouts. We don't get handouts. Mum and dad don't pay for anything. You work, you get your salary, and that's it. Like, there was no special treatment, which I am very grateful for now, because I think that was what made me go, this is my choice to stay here if I want to earn this salary for the rest of my life, because that's basically how it was going to be. You can choose to stay here, or you can choose to change that and step outside of your comfort zone and do something else and have an opportunity to earn more, be more, have more freedom. And that's what I really chose to do. I had a secure job. Whilst there was no handouts and there was no, no special treatment, we did have flexibility with work hours as long as we attended our 8 hours a day, which was great in itself, if you had a dentist appointment or whatever. So then I decided to go off and study nutrition, and this was when I fell pregnant with Casey, actually. Like, I had this, always didn't have self-belief. I always didn't think that I could be anything more. I always had low self-confidence. I always just thought that things were going to happen to me. Like, this is just how I lived my everyday life. And when I fell pregnant with Casey, I thought, well, I'll be the unlucky one that something happens. There's something, untoward would happen and I wouldn't get the son of my dreams. Like, this is just the thought process, the horrible thought process that now I'm like, girl, why did you think like that? That's how I studied nutrition. I was like, well, if I want everything to go right, I'm going to try and control things that I can control and start being healthy, because I wasn't actually healthy. I didn't like vegetables. I didn't drink water. I didn't exercise. Growing up, I was never sporty or anything like that. I was actually quite unhealthy. So that's kind of like how it started. And then my passion just rolled. I was like, this is so interesting. And my passion rolled on from there. And I just got little glimpses of, like, this could be different if I choose it to be different. And I did. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go study my personal training certificate. It was more for me. And then I went on to working at F45. Like, I'm really skipping ahead, but yeah, I went to work at F45 when I met the owners of the studio that I worked at. And because I had experience in an office industry working for my dad, I was doing a lot of accounting, payroll, that kind of boring office admin stuff. The owners of the F45 that I went to work at actually offered me a managerial role, kind of handling that back end stuff, but then also training as well, like training the clients. And it kind of just grew from there. But I think at about the 3-year mark, I just didn't have any freedom or flexibility. I was working more hours than I'd ever worked. Casey was 5 at the time, and I felt like I had missed out on so much of his life. And I was like, if I keep going in this direction, if I keep doing what I'm doing now, how I feel now is only going to be amplified in years to come. It's not going to get better. You can't just keep doing the same old thing and hope that it's going to get better. So I made a decision then and there, with the full support of my husband, and just in Ash Lane style now. It's crazy. I was just like, it'll be fine. It'll work itself out. We were not in a position for me to not have an income. So for me, I quit F45. For me to do that, it was the scariest decision of my life, because we were not in a financial position for me not to have an income. It was either sink or swim. And I think that for me was the thing that made me push forward with no roadblocks. Like, you have to do this, otherwise you lose your house, you can't put food on the table, kind of thing. And that has added over the years to the way that I do things, and the self-belief that I have and the attitude that I have is because of those little moments leading up to it. It's given me that you can do this, like, you've done it before, you can do it again, and everything will be fine. What is the worst that can happen? Or on the other side, what's the best freaking thing that can happen? And here we are, you know, at the best position that we could be. Well, to be honest, it's only going to keep getting better. So
there's more to it, right?
There's more to it. Like, this is like, I always say to Brad, I'm like, well, in 10 years time, what's my story going to look like? What's your story going to look like? What's our story going to look like? There's just so much more to happen, you know?
Fuck, babe, that's resonating so much, especially when it comes to like sink or swim. Fucking, that's been my whole life. And I find in the space of entrepreneurship, right, so many people want what we have. You know, they want the you know, the growth, the success, you know, the lifestyle. There's work that comes with it, but there's this level of belief. It's like there's no proof. You know, there's so much uncertainty. But what you've done here, you've used leverage of like, well, I don't have the income to support myself and my husband and my child, but I know that what I have is certainty within myself, and it's fucking worked in your favor. Like, look where you are now. I've got my clients saying, oh my God, I love Ashley. She's so fucking sick.
I love that. That is so cool.
Completely, babe. And I think this is where the advice comes to anyone who wants to begin a business. Like, you've come from like a secure family, you know, where, you know, you've had, a secure job, but there was something more in life that you wanted, and there was no handouts and whatnot. Yet you did what so many people don't do, and you just took that leap of faith. So people in the industry now coming into the fitness space, let's go back to that, because there is so many coaches out there. What advice would you give people either wanting to start out, wanting to have the same success as you? What do they do?
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I think this applies to anything that you want, is that, and I sometimes don't like the word overthinking, because I'm like, what metric shows you that you're an overthinker? Like, how do you measure overthinking? But don't overthink it and just freaking do it. If you want something, the first step is to take the step. You know, if you want to be a health and fitness coach, if you want to be whatever it is that you want to be, if you want to be an astronaut, right? Doing what you're doing right now and not taking a step forward isn't going to get you there. So take the step forward. Put yourself in a situation where you have to sink or swim, because I feel like that pressure is the thing that actually makes you do whatever it is that you want to do, because you have no choice, right? So like I said, there's people that I work with as well that are in, you know, entrepreneurial spaces or high level CEOs, and they're wanting to go for a promotion or wanting to leave or whatever it might be, and they will put up with garbage time and time again, but just sit there and dream and just want more. But what you want's no good if you're just going to sit there and dream. You've got to take the step forward. Just do it. I know it sounds like simple advice. I feel like people are waiting for that magic. What's the, you know, magic recipe to becoming successful? You know what it is? It's actually just doing it. Just do it.
Fucking taking action, right?
Exactly. But the other thing is, if you are unsure and you're like, okay, well, what's my first step? Get help. Hire a coach. And whatever it is, if it is health and fitness, if you're like, I want to get to there and I'm right here, what pathway do I have to take? Hire a health and fitness coach. If you want to do it in your career, if you want to do it in your business, and you're like, I just know that this is what I want and this is what I desire, but I just don't know what that first step is, have belief in yourself and get a freaking coach. It will collapse time for you. Instead of a 5-year journey, it could be a 6-month journey that a coach will collapse time for you and give you a clear roadmap moving forward.
So important, babe, because all the people that we look up to, they've got mentors and coaches as well. And I think that was my biggest thing that I did wrong in business when I began, and fitness, that I had this mentality. And maybe this stems back to what I went through as a child, but I just had this mentality. I had to do everything on my own, and I had to work it out. And I think so many people who are listening right now, there is always going to be a moment where asking for help does not mean that you're weak. It's just going to amplify your growth and success, and look at things from another level and through different lenses as well. And as you said, beautiful girl, the time frame of the success becomes quicker. And then the next point of our leverage of wanting to step into more growth becomes even more believable, right? And something that we can all start to do more of.
Totally. You know, it's funny that you say that, because yes, absolutely. But also, I think a lot of fear is around, well, I'm not making any money right now. So how can I, if I'm not making money, then invest money that I'm not making to grow? And my question is, well, what's it going to cost you if you don't actually take that action? Because whilst it might be upfront right now, and you might not have the money, well, how can you find the money? Is there things that you can sell? I can't tell you how many times in my life I'm like, I want this, so I'm going to sell that. You know, I remember wanting a camera to take our own photos for Instagram. This was years and years ago. And I'm like, all right, well, what can I, and this camera was $700. And it's funny now, I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, all right, I gathered things. I was like, I sold an old MacBook computer. You know, there was things that we just gathered. I sold some clothes that I had, and I was able to gather $700 for this. So how can you find the money? Can you get a loan? Because what will happen is your investment will be returned on you tenfold in any area, whether it is business, whether it is health and fitness. Your investment will be returned to you if you do it now, particularly if it's scary.
Fuck yeah. It's an energetic exchange. And it's so true, babe. Like the amount of times I always make a joke about this. If a heroin addict can find heroin, what's to say that I can't find money in investing in my business, my life? And perfect example was when I signed up with my mentor. I just bought a really nice car. I had no money. And it was so important to me to grow. I don't even remember how I found the money, but I made it work. And it was fucking hustler to a max. If I had to sell my body, I would have done it, but I didn't get to that point just yet. But when it's important to you and you want to really succeed in life, you will do whatever it takes to get there, ladies. And this is just a huge testament that if you're investing in your growth and business, people are going to invest in you. Like Ash, how often now that you've been constantly making moves to grow and invest in yourself and your relationship and business, people are investing in you from a business perspective, right?
It happens all the time. People see that and they want that. They're like, people buy from you that either resonate with you or want to somewhat be like you or have what you have, right? So you find that, yeah, if you are constantly investing in yourself or making moves in area that other people desire to have or be, then they'll do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, ladies.
Yeah.
Just keep investing and growing.
Totally. Absolutely. I can highly recommend it. I could not recommend it enough.
You know what's funny? And this is going to lead me to my next question. The minute I feel that I'm playing it safe, I'm always like this question comes up into my head. Like, what would my queen self do? You know, what's the version of myself that I truly want to be will do? And I know that this is something that's aligned with you, babe, because you've got big moves coming. I see that, like you're making moves in your business. Like what's next for you and Brad and Casey?
And Casey along for this ride. So we do have something massive, life-changing happening, which I will share with everyone. If people, there will be people that listen to your podcast that follow me, and we have a massive life-changing thing happening to us in October, November. So that's one part of it. But our goal for the business is we actually want to develop our own app. We will be having a massive rebrand coming into the new year as well. But Predominantly, we've got our Train with Ash brand that has the ability to reach so many more people than it currently does. And the idea for us is to change people's lives, not only in the health and fitness space, but their whole life. It's not just about training and nutrition for us. We want to have people to have better relationships with themselves, food, with their friends, with their family, and truly live life, this short life that we are gifted, truly live that to the absolute maximum. Wring that sponge out, get the most out of it. That's what we want as a couple. We don't want people being like, oh, I can't do this, or I hope anymore. We want you to be like, F yes, this is what I'm doing. I'm taking control of my life and I'm going to live it to the absolute maximum.
Fuck, that sounds delicious.
It's just like, I'm like, we are only here for such a short period of time. And I just think like every day or every moment that you spend sad or angry or whatever it is, and some negative emotion, is a minute of your time or a day of your life that you are never going to get back again. It's just not worth it. It is not worth it.
It's funny because it's crazy. Like I'm turning 33 in a few weeks, next week actually. And I just think like there's so much more I want to do, you know, and like there's no limit in possibilities. Like there's just like a whole life, babe. Like when we get to 50, 60, there's still shit that we need to do, that we want to do, right?
Totally.
And it's something I brought up in my chat with my clients. We have an expiry date. Like we're going to die one day. So why not just keep jumping into fear and doing everything? Oh, babe, I'm so excited to see everything that happens for you. Seriously. And I'm coming up to Queensland next week. So I would love, I don't know if you're going to be there, but I would.
Yes, we are. Let's catch up. Let's have a coffee or a cocktail, a margie, a sneaky margie at Burleigh Pavilion or something. Let's catch up. It would be amazing.
I'd love that, babe. Now, how I always end my podcast is asking you one question. What does slay mean to you?
What does slay mean to me? The first thing that comes into my head is that F yes, let's do it. Let's take the bull by the horns and let's slay. Let's move forward. Let's make moves. That's the first thing that comes to my head.
And you can say the C word too, if you like.
You know, it's funny. Now, this is just like a secret between me, you, and your audience, is that I don't mind a little bit of swearing here or there. However, you will never catch me swearing on social media because my grandmother watches me, and just out of respect to my nan, I will never, ever, I will say shit on social media. I'll say that in front of her, but I would never say anything on social media that I wouldn't say in front of my nan. So that's because of my nan.
I love that she's on social media.
I know. She follows me and she comments, and yeah, and I've told her that. I've said, Nan, I don't swear on social media or like on anywhere that she could potentially listen because of you. And she's so grateful. She's like, I love that, because she hates it. Oh, so, wow. So yeah.
We won't be swearing here. I think I've sworn.
No, it's okay. As long as it's not me.
I love that. Babe, where can everyone find you so that everyone can follow your journey?
On my Instagram, which is like, I call it my online home. That's where I hang out all the time. Ash__Lane.
Thank you, beautiful girl. And I'm so excited to see you next week. And thank you everyone for listening. This amazing human is a powerhouse. I look up to her so much, and make sure you guys follow her on Instagram and watch what's to come for the Lanes. Love you, beautiful girl.
Thank you.